This program is brought to you by Grand Valley State University.
Okay, I can speak loudly too, I think. I'll use my Coast Guard voice. By the way, it's a beautiful Coast Guard day out there, don't you think? You gotta love it. Well, I just want to welcome you here, and I do appreciate the Hauenstein Center and the leadership of Gleaves bringing us together on what I think is one of the most contemporary topics that we have an opportunity to discuss, not just here in Grand Rapids, but across the nation and the world. And I wanted to start off this way. Not to give a long treatise on what sustainability is, because I can talk about the triple bottom line until you go home tonight. But that's not what it's about. And I can talk about sustainability as from the academic standpoint, as being an interdisciplinary approach on bringing in all the factors that are necessary to understand our stewardship of our region and of our world. I could do that, but maybe later on Norm can take care of that, right, Norm? All right. See? No, but really what I want to do is just start off this way. I've been blessed with 4 granddaughters, and my wife was up in Alaska for the last 3.5 weeks taking care of the 2-year-old and the 2-month-old. And because my son is in the Coast Guard, enjoying a wonderful Coast Guard day in Seward, Alaska, he said, well, why don't the girls come down to Grand Rapids for a few weeks, and Marcia can bring them down with her, and then I'll come back and spend a few days, and we'll bring them back to Seward. I said, sounds like a plan. Well, on Friday, Marcia came in with our granddaughters and our daughter-in-law, and you have a 2-year-old. And a 2-year-old's joy is so evident. And I think you got to look through this world through the eyes of a 2-year-old. You really do. It's remarkable to see how they explore, how they understand the world around them as we maybe have forgotten. The joy in a dandelion. Think about that. The joy in a dandelion for a 2-year-old. Or a daffodil. Or a tree. Or a fallen leaf. When she starts kicking through the leaves up at our cottage. That to me is why we're here today. And that's why I think that when we look at the nature of stewardship and the nature of how sustainability is part of that stewardship for children's children, we need to understand how important and relevant that this topic is. We have responsibilities as leaders to take care of the world so that we can, in fact, give it to our children's children the way we would want them to have it. But I'll tell you, not any better joy to experience the world through the eyes of a 2-year-old. A dandelion, a daffodil that she carried around with her for hours, and then put it in a vase so she can have it on the table for dinner. That's what this is all about. So when we talk about a conference and summit on this, that's what this is all about. So I do want to say again, welcome to Grand Valley State University, and I was pleased and honored to be recognized on the other side of the state, but more importantly, Grand Valley being recognized for some of its efforts across many dimensions, primarily pushed by our students, which I'm so pleased to be able to be pushed by. So with that, I'm going to introduce one of my good friends here in Grand Rapids, the Honorable Mayor Heartwell. George Heartwell and I have known each other now for almost 4 years. And you know, the first time we met, you remember that? I don't know if you remember, but we were here for the river cleanup. And that was almost 4 years ago. And he came up to me and introduced himself, and me in turn to him. He met Marcia, I met Susan at that time too, I believe. And that was our first engagement. And what did it deal with? It dealt with some of the leadership that he has been providing to our great city. And I really mean that. It is a great city. I've been around the world seeing cities and working in my profession as an educator. But there's something special happening here in Grand Rapids, whether it be through the innovation and entrepreneurial culture that we have that needs to be fostered by leadership, as George does with his colleagues, or whether it be the educational dimensions that we have here with colleges and universities and K through 12 and other ways that we can support educational needs of our future. Lots to be said about George's leadership. In fact, it was pretty neat that I think, was it George, 07, that the UN said, hey, Grand Rapids, you're doing a pretty darn good job. Here's a thumbs up. And that dealt with the whole area of sustainability. And, you know, I know that we've had an economic downturn. It impacts me, impacts my students and our families and everyone. But there's also a need to continue to invest in the right investment strategies. Sustainability needs to be one of those because it will impact the quality of work and life. And I think our mayor gets that very, very well. So with that, I'm going to sit back and listen to the words of George Heartwell. Great friend, great mayor. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, for those kind remarks. And if I can set this down here without doing great bodily harm to the computer, I'm going to do that. Just a note on the relationship between the university and the city of Grand Rapids, a key and very important relationship for us. And I think that it is a very clear two-way street. We began working together in the field of sustainability, working on sustainability, some 5 years ago, when we created something called the Community Sustainability Partnership. I'll talk a little bit about that later, but it's brought the university and the city together in a very powerful way. We continue to work very closely with Norman Christopher, the director of the sustainability for the university, and many other faculty and staff here at the university. But it is also and very clearly about personal relationships, and I am delighted to see. I knew something was. Can I take this out of here, Mandy? Can I remove the computer here and put it someplace else? Get back to. That was easier said than done, wasn't it?
I think so.
Hang on, my foot is being used to prop up this entire operation. There, great. No, this is not going to. This is not.
It's a microphone.
That's the microphone. I see. So that's not to advance the.
Nope.
And I unplug this.
Just press enter.
Okay, let me get back to the beginning. I'm sorry. I got to have help here. I'm almost 61 years old. Get back to the There we go. And now just if you now I can advance it. Thank you. Just with that button. Thank you. And city staff is trying to get me. Where's Selma? Selma, trying to get me to tweet. So you can imagine. You can imagine how much trouble I can get into very quickly with technology. I was just saying though that the relationship that I enjoy with President of the University, with Tom and with Marcia Haas, has been extraordinary, and I think it has opened up to both of us new fields of opportunity for working together institutionally, but it's cemented a close friendship, and I'm very grateful for that. So the title of the presentation is A Tale of Two Cities, and I draw on the first line of Charles Dickens' great novel. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times, it was an age of wisdom, it was an age of foolishness, it was the spring of hope, it was the winter of despair. We had everything before us, we had nothing before us. Few of us living today can remember a more challenging time, a more difficult time than this one. Persistent economic decline. Our beloved Michigan, once a proud manufacturing state, leading the nation in so many ways, is now struggling. High unemployment, losing population. In fact, unemployment has been above 5% for 10 straight years, currently hovering above 14% statewide. Underemployment even worse, and home foreclosures at record levels. And yet into such a time as this, perhaps because of such a time as this, we've been challenged to create sustainable communities. Communities that ensure the provision for generations to come, communities that care for the earth and its people, communities in which we can take pride again. So let me tell you a tale of two cities. Grand Rapids, as we were, and Grand Rapids, as we are becoming. A city being reborn, celebrating its rebirth, chafing under the tension of the new, and yet still longing to be more than we are. Here's our history. Some of it is proud, and some of it is shameful. From the pre-European days, the banks of the Grand River teemed with life. The native peoples of this region, the Ojibwe, the Potawatomi, the Odawa, settled along its banks. And annually, the Anishinaabeg, the people of the three tribes, would gather for an extended powwow at the Grand River, at the site of what currently is the Gerald R. Ford Public Museum. With the arrival of Europeans to this area and the introduction of transportation, we entered into the industrial age. Grand Rapids took on a very different character. In fact, all of Michigan took on a different character. Michigan was timbered, and furniture making industry began in our region. In the early and mid 20th century, Grand Rapids proudly called itself the furniture capital of the world. And indeed we were. Furniture, fine wood furniture, was made here and was delivered all over the world. But during this period, we began treating the Grand River very differently. The golden era of economic progress was not so progressive for the environment. Factories dumped their wastes into the river, and the city actually established its landfill, its dump, on an island in the Grand River. Human wastes flowed freely into the river, treated or not. And the days of fish and waterfowl on the Grand River were but a distant memory. Progress was measured in economic activity, and if the natural environment suffered, well, that was an acceptable price. During the same era, however, we built a world-class public transportation system. Anywhere you wanted to go in Grand Rapids, you could get there by streetcar or by bus. Then came post-World War II, the expansion of the highways, and it became modern to own a car, and even more modern to own 2 cars. And during the late 1950s, we abandoned the streetcars, and during the 1960s, we tore up the track. We were a progressive people, a modern and forward-looking people. This was also a time of immigration to Grand Rapids. African Americans moved up from the southern states to work in the factories. Already well-established immigrant communities from Italy and Ireland, the Ukraine and Poland expanded. The next 40 years solidified Grand Rapids' position as a leader in manufacturing. We grew and we thrived. We believed that there was no end to prosperity, no limit on natural resources, no dimming of the bright light of economic advancement. And then came 2001. The planes hit the towers and our economy hit the wall. We began to understand that the world as we had imagined it was just that, a figment of our imagination. It was unsustainable. It was subject to the whims of capital, and capital was moving away from us, moving to low-cost labor markets. In 2004, I took office as the 38th mayor of the city of Grand Rapids. We were already 3 years into a steep economic decline that swept across all of Michigan and indeed all of the industrial north from New England through the Midwest. The urgency of the immediate eclipsed the demand for looking for long-term sustainable solutions. The day-to-day decisions of the executive office and City Hall were about doing more with less, about cutting essential services, impossibly balancing a rapidly shrinking budget. What was the highest priority for our citizens? Was it public safety or quality of life? Can we get by with mowing the cemeteries once every 3 weeks instead of twice a month? How many staff does the planning department really need to deliver its important services? How about the clerk's office, the treasurer's office? How can we trim our health care costs, our fuel bills? In the midst of this myriad important and pressing questions, I have the formal opportunity annually to address the community at a high level, at the level of vision for the future. The third Saturday of January, I deliver a State of the City address. The speech gives me the opportunity to look forward, to look beyond the crisis of the now, and to envision a different Grand Rapids, a prosperous Grand Rapids for the future. It's an opportunity to set goals, even lofty goals, and to paint the picture of a pathway to attain these goals. I think that in some ways the State of the City address has helped preserve my sanity. I would go so far even as to say that the State of the City address gives the entire community something to hold on to, something to invest in, to be hopeful for when all around us things are so grim. So for the past 7 years, on that third Saturday of January, I have gathered between 500 and 600 of the citizens of Grand Rapids at DeVos Place for a free breakfast. They come for the speech. The breakfast, is for good table conversation, and then to listen to at least this one man's vision for the future of Grand Rapids, for a community that is emerging a community that our children's children will inherit. Now, like everything else that we do at City Hall, the State of the City Address is organized around the principles of the balanced triple bottom line. Social equity, environmental stewardship, and economic integrity. If we are to be a sustainable community, a place where people live well, where businesses thrive, and where natural assets are protected and preserved, then we simply must begin to think differently and let our thinking drive our acting. Let me give you an example of the balanced triple bottom line to explain what I'm getting at. In the zip code that incorporates the center of Grand Rapids, 49503, we learned that 1 child in 3 suffers from the effects of elevated blood lead levels. In fact, in one discrete neighborhood, the Baxter neighborhood within that zip code area, 960 homes, 47% of the children tested for lead under the age of 6 over a 3-year period, tested at medical intervention levels. Half the children living in this neighborhood had blood lead levels at medical intervention levels. Now, because lead in the blood system affects many functions, but principally the neurological, these children will be less capable of learning than would those be who are not affected by blood level. Because they're less capable of learning, they'll be more likely to drop out of school when they achieve that age, and therefore forced to take subsistence pay jobs. As adults, they will burden society and are more likely to end up in our criminal justice system and our healthcare systems. They'll raise children of their own in poverty who will repeat their parents' experience of poverty, and they will live lives of stress, as sadness and dysfunction. Lead is an environmental hazard. It's a poison. And reducing lead poisoning increases the probability of success in school and in subsequent employment. Reducing lead also reduces the costs of society for health care, for social welfare, for incarceration. Children who are lead-free will be more likely to grow into adults who are productive and content, relatively prosperous and healthy. So you see how all 3 of the elements of the triple bottom line come to play here: the environmental, the economic, and the social. Prior to serving as mayor, I headed a startup multi-sector collaboration here in Grand Rapids called Get the Lead Out. And it has now earned national recognition for its work in this field, and has attracted now over $15 million to Grand Rapids for remediation of homes with lead hazard for children. Well, this has been a major digression from my point. So let me come back to the State of the City address and give you the record briefly of the 7 State of the City addresses that I've delivered. The first year I focused on the city schools and on literacy in our community. I established what has been a very important new working relationship between the Grand Rapids Public Schools and the city of Grand Rapids, where in the past we were often adversaries. Now we work closely together. I also proposed an education renewal zone legislation, which unfortunately has been one of those elusive goals that has not yet been achieved. In the area of literacy, having learned that 20% is bad enough, of our adult population in Grand Rapids is functionally illiterate, that is, reads at a 3rd grade level or less. We launched, President of the Community College, Juan Oliveras, and I launched a community summit on literacy, and we have established and have been implementing now for the past 4 or 5 years a community literacy plan. In the second year, I focused on renewable energy, setting a goal of 20% renewables for the City of Grand Rapids by the year 2008. I focused on community sustainability partnership. We formed this new partnership between the university, the Grand Rapids Public Schools, the community college, Aquinas College, and the City of Grand Rapids, a partnership that has now grown to almost 200, 190 some, is that right, Norman? Members from business, education, and government. An important partnership that I'll say a few words about further in just a few moments. Also that year I established a commitment for the city to build no buildings in the future that were not LEED certified, and pledged that we would incorporate into our zoning ordinances LEED design standards. In the third year, 2006, was a year of talking about higher education and incentivizing a knowledge industry in Grand Rapids, bringing business and higher education closer together to strengthen the economy of our community. And it was a year in which we launched with the City of Walker a joint venture project, the Grand Walk Environmental Business Park, under development now on our border areas to the northwest. In 2007, my fourth year, I talked about a regional approach to public education and bringing the schools of the region more closely together, working through the Kent Intermediate School District, and convened the community around the goal of ending homelessness in a decade. The good work that's flowed out of both of those initiatives, I hope, is well known to all in the room, but there's been good and steady progress in both areas. In 2008, my fifth year, my fifth State of the City, having achieved the goal of 20% renewable by the end of 2007, I set a modest new goal of 100% renewables for the City of Grand Rapids by 2020. While it is the most aggressive goal that has been established to date in the country, it is an entirely achievable goal, and the city staff continues to work on at least 3 projects right now that will help move us in that direction. I suggested what has also remained a rather elusive goal for me, that is replacing all the city's street lights with LED lighting. We have yet to find the correct technology that satisfies our engineers, and the engineers are calling the shots on that one, not the mayor. And building wind power capacity in our manufacturing sector, a great partnership that the city has had with manufacturers, and in particular with Cascade Engineering Company that you're going to hear more about from Christina in a few moments, and the work that they're doing in wind power generation as an economic sector. And then a very modern concept, the introduction of the streetcar. Streetcars coming back in Grand Rapids. Task force that's been successful now in obtaining a grant from the United States government for the study, a $450,000 grant from the government to study and begin the preliminary engineering for a streetcar development in Grand Rapids. Last year, I set a goal for creating a local carbon offset program where local businesses and tourism and convention traffic to Grand Rapids could offset their carbon by purchasing through a local carbon program. I painted a vision for a single stream recycling center using city bucks incentives. The county is about to, I think next fall, is that right? Or in July is going to launch open their single stream recycling center, and the city is ready now to implement single stream recycling, free service at the curb that will not only give you the benefit of recycling, but will give you city bucks that you can use at local businesses for locally owned businesses for discounts and on your purchases or your meals. And then Neighbor to Neighbor Fund, of course, in these difficult times, I use the opportunity of the state of the city to establish a fund to assist those who are struggling economically. It's been administered by the Grand Rapids Community Foundation and has helped many families in our community. And finally, this year, I focused on jobs creation, launched something called the Mayor's 50 companies that are working, that have committed to taking students as interns into their organizations on a shared cost basis with the City of Grand Rapids, using some grant dollars that we were able to collect. And a regional consolidation. You've seen much recently about the idea of not only consolidating services between governmental units, but the potential to establish or to consolidate governmental units themselves in the future. We continue to work closely on that with Kent County and with neighboring communities. So careful observers will note, as I've rattled through this brief history, that that although each of the goals falls under one or another of the three elements of the triple bottom line, all are predicated on a balanced triple bottom line. That's important. That is, our big picture objectives must each impact equity, economy, and environment to be worthy of inclusion in the State of the City address. Now, I suppose you could write this speech off as the prerogative of a mayor to boast a little bit about his city. I suppose you could even ask, what does this have to do with me? Well, remember, this is a tale of two cities. The first city is the Grand Rapids that was and might have continued. It's a tale of self-centeredness, of wealth generation at the expense of the environment, of social privilege, mindless of the cost to others. And the other city as a tale in this tale is the city that we're becoming, a sustainable city. A city where humans are valued above things, where innovators and entrepreneurs are rewarded for enterprise that leads to a better future for all. A city that the world looks to as a model and a guide for the future. In a few short years, we have positioned Grand Rapids as a global leader in sustainability. President Haas mentioned the United Nations recognition. We are the first city recognized in the United States, recognized by the United Nations, and today one of only two with the designation of a Center for Expertise in Sustainability, Sustainable Education. We're also a leadership city in Great Lakes Basin protection. This is a city with more LEED certified buildings per capita than any other city in the country. And if Grand Rapids can achieve this level of transformation in such a short time, then any city can do so. Any city with the will, with the energy, with the commitment to put resources from public and private sectors together in the service of sustainability can do what Grand Rapids has done. No, must do what Grand Rapids has done, and more. No city can be content today with the status quo. Every city must resolve to do its part in saving the globe and ensuring that every child to the 7th generation and beyond has the opportunity to thrive economically and socially in an environment that renews resources rather than depleting them or despoiling them. Only when every city plays its role in sustaining creation can the rest of us, can we rest comfortably, assured that our future is secure. Acting sustainably is no longer a fad, not something that we do because our neighbor is doing it, and acting sustainably is no longer an option. It is the only way. A tale of two cities, a tale of two companies, a tale of two families. It's all the same. Today is the day to leave the old and outmoded ways behind. Today is the day to save the planet, and we're the people to save it. Thank you.
The preceding program is copyrighted by Grand Valley State University. Visit us at gvsu.edu.